As a filmmaker, showreels are very important when people are deciding if they want to work with you or not, so this week I'm sharing what it takes to make a great demo reel. Hello, my name is Cade and this is DSLRguide. So in filmmaking, showreels are usually used to give people an idea of what your skills are like without them needing to watch every single film you've ever worked on. And there may well be many opportunities resting on what a director, a producer, or even a client thinks of your demo reel, so it's definitely worth putting some effort into making it really good. So the first thing is that making a reel usually consists of going through all the stuff that you've shot and picking out the absolute best parts and editing them together in a sort of montage. So in my first few reels, this is exactly what I did. I just went through and picked out my favourite shots and edited them together, added some music, and that was it. But your reel may well be the only time when a certain producer sees your work, so why not use your skills in storytelling and editing rather than just having a really meaningless kind of sequence of nice shots. Now in my latest reel, which I've linked in the description, I decided to not only find some of my best shots but then also look for themes within them, because our brains are really good at picking out connections between shots. And to explain this a bit better, there's a really good video in an interview with Alfred Hitchcock, which I'll link to on the blog post. So while it's difficult to make a fully fledged story out of your reel, although if you want to try that out I highly recommend it and it would really make your reel stand out from the others, but you can also just kind of have different scenes within your reel. You can have energetic scenes, you can have sad scenes, happy scenes, funny scenes, and you can kind of split things up and reorder them in a creative way that goes along with the music, and you can end up making something that does have a kind of story even if it's not kind of plot based. So a really easy way to improve your reel is just to look for patterns. I had some shots of people walking from behind, so I again edited those together really quickly and grouped them up. I also looked for themes like water and animals and just anything you can do to organize things and show continuity without just kind of grouping each project together. So once we've shown that we can make nice images and that we have some creativity when it comes to editing and storytelling, then after that I think you should consider variety, because you don't really want people thinking that you can only shoot a certain kind of interviews or that you've only ever worked on one project. So variety is a really important part of demo reels because you can use lots of different lighting, lots of different types of shots, wide shots, close-ups, and lots of different atmospheres and locations, and just try and present the idea that you've done lots of work and you're very experienced, because this is the sort of thing that people care about when they are hiring you. Now this next one is very important. It's music. I think one of the most common mistakes that people make is to choose a really high energy, like maybe an electronic dance song with shots that are of like promotional videos and weddings. I think if your music is really high energy and your shots don't kind of live up to that, then it actually can have a negative effect on your film. So I think it's really important to try and match the atmosphere so that the music doesn't set up a really high expectation of it being like an extreme sports video or something like that. So I think the best thing to do is just to go through lots of different styles, lots of different genres of music until you find something that fits really nicely. The other thing I see quite a lot is when the timings of the cuts lines up perfectly with the beat of the music. I think this can be quite distracting because you start to predict exactly when the next shot is coming, especially if they do it all the time. I'm not against doing it every once in a while, but if every single shot is in time with the beat, then I think it draws a lot of attention to the cuts. Whereas if you have the action in your shots line up with the music, so for example I've got a shot of someone chopping some wood, so I put that exactly in time with a big snare hit and lots of other little things like that, where within the shot there are kind of percussive points or things that can line up with the music, and that is a much more powerful way to do it, I think, at least. I also tried to have the more high energy shots with the parts of the music that were more upbeat and vice versa. But what's the most common mistake that people make? I think it's not using sound. Now, when I did my first few reels, they were pretty much completely silent except for music. So I just grabbed a bunch of shots, muted them all, even like interviews I had people talking but you couldn't hear them, and then added some music and I was done. But by the time I did my 2013 reel, I decided to add the sound of the skier coming past and some splashes and the sound of the ocean for the shot with the birds, and I would argue that this genuinely made it 2 times better. So I think it's really worth picking shots that do have sound in them, and if you didn't get good sound on location, then feel free to add it in post like I did with the skier, because I think that a good montage is usually very rhythmic, and the pace of the cuts, the sound effects and the music all kind of build up to make this what is a much more entertaining experience than just a silent bunch of shots with a bit of music. One day you might be showing your reel to a big Hollywood executive, and you really won't want them to be bored by an extra long reel. So I think it's good to have multiple reels. If you do weddings, have a wedding reel. If you do narrative stuff, then have a separate one for that. And if you're a director and you're doing a director's reel, then you want to focus on the kind of performance that you got out of your actors. If it's a cinematography reel, then obviously it's going to be more visual and just kind of really make it really nice and specific. Ideally, you'd make a custom reel for every single project based on what the client is looking for in terms of the atmosphere, and that way you could really make sure that there are no irrelevant shots. But the key is to keep it short. If you only have 30 seconds of good shots, then keep it at 30 seconds. There's no point trying to fill it out with shots that aren't as strong. And the best thing to do is just to start with whatever shots you've got. Pick the absolute best ones. If you need to, you can go out and film stuff specifically for it so you've got more variation. And then just as time goes on, you just replace the worst shots with some new ones that are better. And just keep doing this. Every once in a while you might want to do a full redo with some new music and a new editing style, but you just kind of keep swapping it out, keep building it up, and over the years you should have a progressively better reel. So that's pretty much it. On the blog post I'll link to my latest cinematography reel, and I'll also link to some of my favourite other reels from around the internet, and of course I'll add that Alfred Hitchcock interview thing about editing, which I highly recommend. But that's it for this week, and I'll see you next time.